watched a crow land near a stranger on a park bench. The stranger tossed it a piece of bread. The crow took it, flew off. You probably thought that was the end of it. But that crow remembered the face. Not vaguely. Not the way we remember a passing stranger. Precisely. The way you remember someone who once changed something for you. And months later, in a different season, on a different day, that crow came back. Not for food. Not by accident. It brought something small. A button, a twist of wire, a pebble worn smooth by water. Scientists are careful with this word, but what that crow may have been doing is closer to gratitude than most people are comfortable admitting. The question sounds simple. Can wild animals recognize kindness? But the real answer is deeper. Because kindness in the animal world is not softness. It is information. It is a signal. It is a shift in the environment that a survival brain must decode and store. And some animals are not just detecting that signal, they are responding to it in ways that look disturbingly familiar.
Let us start with what the science actually shows. In a long-running study at the University of Washington, researchers wore specific masks while handling crow nests. One mask was threatening, one was neutral, and the crows were disturbed, banded, and released. Years passed, and the masks stayed in a drawer. When researchers put them on again, years later, on a different campus, surrounded by crows that had never personally experienced the original encounter, they were dive-bombed, scolded, and followed. The memory had not just survived, it had spread. Crows had communicated the threat to other crows, and the face became a shared cultural warning. But that is not the strange part.
The crows, who had been treated gently, handled carefully, and released without harm, did not attack those faces. They watched, they tracked, and they maintained a kind of wary attention that was different in quality from their response to the threatening ones. Different behavior, same memory system. Two completely distinct categories: danger and something else. Now, consider what that means for the brain behind those eyes. A crow's brain is roughly the size of a walnut. You could hold it in your palm and barely feel the weight. But inside that structure is a region called the pallium, a dense, folded network of neurons that processes social information, context, and consequence. Not instinct, not reflex. Evaluation. The crow is not simply reacting to your face. It is building a model of you. It is constructing a history. It is asking, in whatever way a crow asks anything, what did this being do? And what might it do again? This is not so different from what you do when someone walks into a room and something in your chest tightens before you even understand why. The body knows the record.
But crows are not alone in this. Move away from the forest. Move towards something older, wilder, and far less expected: manta rays. They exist in open water, circling cleaning stations, natural spots on coral reefs where small fish remove parasites from their skin. Mantas return to the same stations. They recognize the same cleaner fish, and they adjust their body posture based on who is cleaning them. With familiar cleaners, they slow their breathing. Their pectoral fins settle, and the tension leaves the muscle. With strangers, they hold differently. A subtle stiffness, a readiness. Researchers studying manta ray behavior in the Maldives observed that individual rays would wait, sometimes in a queue of other rays, specifically for certain cleaners. They would pass by available fish and wait for a particular one, not because that fish was more efficient, but because that fish had a history with. What happens next is harder to explain, because what you are watching is not instinct selecting for the best outcome. It is something that looks like preference, based on experience, relationship, and trust, built slowly under open water, in a body with no hands, no voice, and no face we can read.
And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because we have spent a long time drawing a line between human emotional life and animal behavior. We call their responses instinct. We call ours feeling. We say they react. We say we choose. But the more closely we look, the less stable that line becomes. A crow that returns a gift to a person who fed it is doing something the brain had to calculate. This entity gave. I have something to give. The exchange has meaning. A manta ray that waits in open water for the one cleaner it trusts is carrying somewhere in that ancient nervous system a record of being treated gently and choosing that gentleness again. These are not random behaviors. They are not accidents of conditioning.
They are, at minimum, the architecture of something we recognize. There is a case from Japan involving a macaque troop near Jigokudani, studied over decades. A younger macaque in the troop had a physical deformity that made climbing difficult. In most primate groups, weakness invites displacement, competition, and aggression. But this individual had a long history with a particular elder female in the group. She had groomed it consistently as an infant and had placed herself between it and more aggressive members during feeding. As the macaque aged, the deformity worsened, and the researchers watched carefully for what the group would do. The elder female's behavior did not change. She remained close, she continued grooming, and she waited. The other group members, interestingly, largely mirrored her behavior around this individual. Not all of them, but enough that the pattern was visible. One relationship had created a kind of local culture of tolerance. Scientists do not call this love. They are careful with that word. But they note the behavioral outcomes, the proximity, the consistency, and the way one animal's decision about how to treat another seemed to ripple outward into the group.
So, what are we actually looking at? We're looking at nervous systems that evolved to track consequence, to store social history, and to build internal maps of who is safe, who is dangerous, and it seems who has been kind. The crow remembers your face because its survival depends on reading the world accurately. And you, at some point, were a piece of information that read as safe. The manta ray returns to that cleaner because something in the experience registered as ease, as relief, as something the body wanted to find again. The macaque elder stayed because a young animal had been small and vulnerable, and she had made a choice, and that choice had become a pattern, and that pattern had become something others moved around. These are not identical to human kindness, and we should not pretend they are, but they are not nothing. They are animals using their most sophisticated systems, memory, social cognition, and emotional regulation, to navigate a world where being treated well is rare enough to be worth remembering.
And perhaps that is the thing to sit with. In a wild world built almost entirely on competition, scarcity, and the pressure to survive, kindness still leaves a mark, not because animals are sentimental, but because kindness, when it happens, is one of the most accurate pieces of information a nervous system can receive. It means this place, this being, this moment is safe. And safety in the wild is the rarest thing of all.